Have you ever wished you could just know what someone was going to do next? Or, for that matter, what a machine is about to do? Well, today we're going to get into a really powerful philosophical idea that lets you do just that. And trust me, the answer is way stranger and way cooler than you might think. So this line, it's from an old parable. A guy's servant sees death in a marketplace in Baghdad, gets terrified, and flees to a city called Samarra to hide. But when he gets there, death is waiting for him. Turns out, death was just surprised to see him in Baghdad because their appointment was in Samarra all along. It's this haunting idea about how hard it is to escape a predictable outcome. And that really gets you thinking, right? How do we predict what anyone or anything is going to do? Is it some mystical thing about fate, or is there a practical, nitty-gritty strategy that we're all using every single day without even realizing it? Okay, let's get into it. The philosopher Dennett lays out this awesome framework. He says we basically have a toolkit with 3 different ways, or stances, we can take to predict how any system is going to behave. So think of these as levels. We're starting at the most basic, most complicated level, and we're going to work our way up to the shortcuts that are way more powerful for dealing with the world. Let's break them down. First up, you've got the physical stance. This is pure physics. You know the material of the pot, you know the properties of water, you know how much heat the stove is putting out, and boom, you predict it'll boil. It's super accurate. But for almost anything more complex than boiling water, it's completely insane. I mean, could you imagine trying to predict how I'll vote by tracking every single atom in my body? No way. Which is why we almost always take a shortcut. This is the design stance. Look, you don't need to know the physics of the circuits inside your alarm clock. You just assume it was designed to go off at 7 a.m. and you predict it's going to work. Simple. This works for things we build, but also for stuff in nature, right? We assume a bird's wings are designed for flight, so we predict it will fly away if we get too close. But then there's the big one, the most powerful strategy of all, the intentional stance. When you're playing against a chess computer, you don't need to know its code. That's its design. And you're definitely not tracking its electrons. Instead, you just treat it like a smart opponent. You say, okay, it wants to win the game, and it believes that sacrificing its rook for no reason is a stupid move, so it's not going to do that. And this intentional stance, well, it's basically our built-in method for mind reading. It's what we use on each other constantly. But how does it actually work under the hood? Dennett boils it down to these 4 steps. First, you just decide to treat the thing like it's rational. Then, and this is the key, you figure out what beliefs it should have, given its situation in the world, and what desires it should have. And then you just predict it's going to act in a way that gets it what it wants, based on what it believes. It's that simple and that profound. Now, this is the magic trick right here. The fundamental rule is that we start by assuming everything is basically rational and has the beliefs and desires that make sense for it. You know, a person generally wants to stay alive and avoid getting hurt. They generally believe that the chair they see in front of them is real. It's a fantastic shortcut that gets us an amazing amount of predictive power. So, if this strategy is our go-to for prediction, what kinds of things can we actually use it on? Who really counts as a true believer? Get ready, because the answer is a little wild. See, for Dennett, the definition is totally practical. It has nothing to do with what's actually going on inside something's head or its circuits. An intentional system is simply anything whose behavior you can reliably predict, in rich detail, by using this strategy. If the stance works, it's a believer, period. And that definition gives us this crazy list. Okay, humans, mammals, sure. Birds and fish make sense. But clams? A chess computer? A thermostat? Yup, according to this view, even your home thermostat qualifies as a true believer. And I know what you're thinking, because I thought it too. A thermostat? You're telling me it wants the room to be warmer and it believes the furnace is off, so it acts? Come on. That sounds like a cute metaphor, not a real belief. It feels like we're just making it up, right? And that's the biggest, most powerful pushback to this whole idea. If having a belief is just a useful story we tell to make a prediction, is it even a real thing? Is it an actual objective fact about the thermostat, or is it just something in our own heads? Dennett takes this on with a great thought experiment. Imagine Martians show up, and they are such incredible superphysicists that they can predict your every single move just by tracking all the atoms in your body and brain. They would never need to use the intentional stance on us. So, from their point of view, would we have beliefs? Or would we just be complicated machines, no different from a thermostat? The 2 perspectives are just worlds apart.
As an Earthling, you see your friend answer the phone, and you think, she wants wine for dinner and believes the store is open, so she's going to the store. You predict the pattern. The Martian superphysicist, they see only atoms. They calculate trillions of interactions and predict the exact same physical motions, your friend's body moving to the store. They get the right answer, but they see zero purpose or belief, just physics.
And here is Dennett's brilliant counter-argument. He says the Martians, for all their incredible calculating power, are actually missing something real. They're seeing every single tree, but they can't see the forest. They would completely fail to notice the objective, real patterns in our behavior, patterns of wanting things, of trying to achieve goals, that are only visible when you take the intentional stance. As he puts it himself, these patterns are real things in the world. They aren't just in our heads. The language of beliefs and desires isn't some convenient fiction. It's the scientific language we use to describe these very real, very powerful, high-level patterns of behavior. So why does any of this matter? What's the big takeaway? It's that this whole idea just completely flips our common sense notion of what a belief even is. It's not some mysterious thing floating around inside your head. Now, you could ask, why does this intentional strategy work so darn well on us humans? Well, the easy answer is just evolution. It designed us to be creatures that generally act rationally to survive. The hard answer about what's actually happening with the neurons and synapses that produces this behavior, well, cognitive science is still chipping away at that. But the key here is that Dennett argues we've been asking the wrong question for a very, very long time. We've been looking for a belief, as if it were some little sentence written down on a piece of paper and stored in a filing cabinet in the brain. He says we need to shift and ask this question instead. And that's the whole game. A belief isn't a thing in you. A belief is the predictable, objective pattern that your actions trace out in the world. To be a true believer just means your behavior creates a pattern so consistent that the best way, and sometimes the only way, to predict it is to treat you like you have a mind. And that leaves us with this huge, provocative question to chew on. As our AI gets smarter, as we learn more about animals, if something's behavior creates a pattern that's indistinguishable from a true believer, maybe that's all being a believer really is. Is the pattern the reality? Now that is something to think about.